fascinating Nigeria.
Africa's biggest market. Extraordinary, fascinating Nigeria.
This message is brought to you by Community Awareness and Development Network, Kawan.
Nigerians celebrate a man whose life gives everyone the hope that life can be better. Today he is modernizing agriculture for food security, developing critical infrastructure, providing adequate health care for national growth, utilizing petroleum resources for the benefit of all, creating cutting-edge aviation facilities, pioneering new frontiers in education, and tackling Nigeria's energy challenges. Good luck, Abella Jonathan. Transforming Nigeria. This message is brought to you by Community Awareness and Development Network, Kawan.
NTA News 24 brings to you news and exciting programs wherever you are. Home, workplace, hotels, even in the marketplace. We cover Nigerian cities and communities. We are on StarTimes Mobile and paid satellite TV. This is good news to manufacturers and advertising agencies. Take advantage of our wider reach and showcase your products, goods and services for price you can't get anywhere. For more information or advert booking, please contact NTA News 24, news and more news.
Lieutenant Colonel Mweze, Major O. Akintola, Colonel Kabiru Salisu, Lieutenant Kenneth Onoba. Sadly, they and many others are no more, felled by bullets from terrorists who have unleashed on our country and its citizens pain, sorrow, tears and misery. These soldiers answered the patriotic call of their country to defend and protect. They had families, fathers, mothers, wives, sons and daughters. Our nation feels their pain. Our country will forever remain grateful. They are our true patriots. Support our troops. Play a patriotic part. An attack on one Nigerian is a war against all Nigerians. Let us all unite against those who seek to destroy our unity and peace. Today, Nigeria needs you. Together, we can defeat terrorism. Nigeria.
World-class medical facilities and diagnostic center to be set up in each of the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria.
Federal government assures investors of returns on investment as infrastructure master plan comes into effect.
It's one thing to have that fear as a Nigerian from my own experience. It's another thing for us as Nigerians to key into this project.
Nigeria reviews activities on empowerment and poverty eradication efforts ahead of extraordinary summit of African Union heads of state.
After decades of decline, any glimpse of hope for the Nigerian textile industry?
Indeed, Kingsley, $1 million question there. And from all I have gathered so far, after many years of being in the doldrums, light seems to be, beginning to shine on the path of the textile industry in Nigeria, but not quite as brightly as, is expected. I grew up knowing the textile industry in Nigeria to be one of the biggest in Africa, and indeed one of the largest employers of labor. I recall textile factories like Aswani, I remember the Asaba textile industry, I remember the Arawa textile industries, and many others that I have lost count of, and I'm sure you know why I have.
Well, Claire, you've just mentioned the tip of the iceberg. The story, as it were, of the fate of the textile industry until just a couple of years ago mirrors the country's economic challenges. Asaba Textile Mill, for instance, was located in Asaba, and they also had a football club. And oftentimes they played their best matches against Bendel Insurance. And I'm sure there are many young persons in Benin who know a street called Textile Mill Road. But they probably do not know what went on there. There was a textile mill factory called Edo Textile Mill. Unfortunately, all of this went off. As you very well rightly know, the figures were quite troubling because Nigeria, the textile industry in Nigeria used to be the hub, second only perhaps to South Africa. We had over 180 of them in the 80s, yes.
Indeed.
So,
all right, let's quickly take a look at what happened exactly to this all-resourceful sector that was generating over 500,000 direct and indirect jobs for about 1 million Nigerians at the time. Now, Kingsley, instability in government and policy, staccato, appears to be the world's culprit. But of course, we cannot, rule out other issues. Policy instability, government changes and all that leading to one thing or the other, of course, paving the way for the influx of cheap foreign textile materials. And we're looking at poor or inadequate road and energy infrastructure. That's talking about power supply. We cannot rule all this out. So between the 1980s and early 1990s, the textile industry in Nigeria plummeted with a big bang boom.
Well, unfortunately, the sector, which at a time, as I said, had over 180 functional mills, employing sometimes close to 1 million, both direct and indirect, now has close to 25,000. That's because the industry is gradually recovering its breath and then trying to get back into life. And this obviously is the result of a number of interventions. There were interventions earlier in the administration of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and also President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua also had his intervention. Then at the time, a revival fund is called CTG, that's the Cotton, Textile and Garment Revival Fund, was set up, worth about 100 billion naira. But it's taking the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan to kick that into effect, disbursing it through the Bank of Industry.
Of course, the Bank of Industry is disbursing this fund at the single-digit rate of 6% with a repayment period of about 7 years, we are told. All right, what has been the effect of this on this sector, and how will this fund jumpstart the textile industry from its current state? Of course, like Kingsley said, this has been improving. And this morning on German, that's Good Morning Nigeria, we will be looking at, of course, what exactly is happening in the textile industry. Where are we and where are we heading to? I am Claire Adelabu Abdurrazak, and just to be sure that Kingsley is wearing material that's locally made from Nigerian textile industry. Kingsley, guilty or not guilty?
Not exactly guilty. Not exactly guilty. But I know. I mean, you are fully compliant, and you are always compliant. And that's a lovely thing. Well, we're going over to the new segment. We'll also check out what our colleague Larry is wearing. But the point is this, Claire. You know, it's a full range. You know, there's also a value chain in the textile industry, as it were. You have the cotton growers, then you have the spinners, you have those who do the prints, and then the tailors. So that's why I said I'm not fully guilty. I don't know where the fabric comes from, but obviously it was tailored in Nigeria. To that extent, you know, I'm compliant.
In the newsroom, and Larry, thank God you're also compliant. And I really want to give the women here, you know, really thumbs up, because if you look around fashion industry today, women are compliant with, of course, our local materials, local fabrics. Larry, good morning. And well done.
Good morning, Claire. Well, I don't wear any other fabric apart from the one made in Nigeria, because I'm proud to be a Nigerian, and I think the textile industry, you know, we should encourage them by patronizing what they make. I think that should be the best thing to do. So I thank God, like this one I'm wearing is made in Nigeria, and I'll always patronize made in Nigeria.
They call Akosombo or, you know, Cote d'Ivoire. I don't know. I was wondering.
No, seriously.
Are you sure?
No, Kingsley, this is Nigeria. Larry, get on with the news.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Nigeria. Here's the news. A world-class medical facility and diagnostic center would be set up in each of the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. The Ministerial Committee on Establishment of World-Class Hospitals met with President Goodluck Jonathan at the Presidential Villa. The committee is headed by Tony Elumelu.
Working with his government can help to bring closure in terms of completion to all these hospitals, so that our people will stop traveling to India, other South Africa, other places for medical attention, medical care. That will unlock a lot of opportunities in the health sector. That will provide a much needed effective demand of funding that will help the sector to take off.
The presidency has described as erroneous the claim that Senator Ali Modu Sharif accompanied President Goodluck Jonathan on his recent trip to Jamena as a member of his entourage. Presidential spokesman Ruben Abati stated this while addressing journalists on the accusation.
The presidency wishes to affirm, for the purpose of emphasis, that the former Borno State governor was not on President Jonathan's delegation to Chad. In keeping with President Jonathan's commitment to transparency and openness in the conduct of government business, names of the key members of his delegation were announced a day before his trip to N'Djamena. For the purpose of emphasis and to remind all of us once again, they included the National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired, the Minister of Communications Technology, Mrs. Omobola Johnson, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Nuruddin Mohammed, and the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, Professor Seidu Mohammed. And what happened was that he joined other Nigerian residents of the Chadian capital in coming to the airport to welcome their president. That was the full extent of his participation in the visit. And it was also at the N'Djamena International Airport that the pictures, which formed the basis of the bogus allegation of President Jonathan hobnobbing with an accused sponsor of terrorism, were taken. The former governor's presence in Chad was certainly not at President Jonathan's instance, and he did not participate in any of the president's discussions with President Idris Deby Itno or his other engagements in N'Djamena. He seizes this opportunity to reassure all Nigerians once again of his total commitment to doing all within his powers to bring all identified and verified sponsors of terrorism to justice and ending the menace of violent extremism in the
The federal government will require $86 billion to bridge Nigeria's infrastructure gap in the first 5 years of a 30-year National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan. The Minister of National Planning, Dr. Abubakar Suleiman, who made this known at a news briefing in Abuja, assured investors of returns on their investment as the Infrastructure Master Plan comes into effect.
It's one thing to have that fear as a Nigerian from our own experience. It's another thing for us as Nigerians to key into this project.
Nigeria is reviewing activities on employment and poverty eradication efforts expected to be presented at the extraordinary summit of the African Union heads of state slated to take place later in the year. The effort is in response to the African Union Commission policies, which require every member nation to prepare a comprehensive evaluation report on the implementation of plan of action on poverty reduction every 5 years.
Let me also remind you that your inputs, comments and observations will be incorporated into the review of the report being undertaken preparatory to the summit.
Nigeria has done well in the 11 key priority areas as outlined by the African Union, despite the challenges the government has been facing.
And talking health, in a bid to contribute to the fight against the Ebola virus, the Women for Change and Development Initiative, a non-governmental organization of the First Lady Dame Patience Jonathan, has organized a sensitization talk for women. The First Lady, in a message to the event, asked the women to pass the knowledge acquired to people at the grassroots.
Go down the line so that everybody will know how to fight this Ebola virus, to kick it out of Nigeria. That's the intention of Her Excellency Dame Patience Jonathan, who happens to be the initiator and the grand patron of Women for Change.
We should clean our environments. By doing so, the disease will not come in. To ensure that we are hygienic, and starting from washing our hands.
The Director General, National Orientation Agency, NOAA, Mike Omeri, says more troops have been deployed to the northeast to ensure maximum security. Reacting to media reports that insurgents have taken control of some towns in the area, the Director General of NOAA assured residents of the area of the commitment of the Nigerian Army to secure their lives and property. He also introduced the new Force Public Relations Officer, Emmanuel Ojukwu. The first batch of intending Muslim pilgrims from the Federal Capital Territory departed the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport yesterday to perform this year's Hajj in Saudi Arabia. The FCT Minister of State, Olajumoke Akinjide, who flagged off the Hajj operation at the permanent Hajj camp in Abuja, enjoined the intending pilgrims to pray for peace in Nigeria. The first batch has 500 intending pilgrims on board. The National Examinations Council has released the 2014 June-July Senior School Certificate Examination results with 52% pass at credit level, an improvement from the previous years. NECO Registrar and Chief Executive Professor Promise Okpala says the trend is an indication that efforts of stakeholders at improving the quality of teaching and learning in secondary schools are yielding positive results.
We look forward to a generation where the recovery will begin to move a good percentage into a distinction level.
That's the main news on Good Morning Nigeria. It's back to Claire and Kingsley.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Laure, for the news package this morning. This is Good Morning Nigeria, coming to you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. After this part, we'll have the business news.
She's not sleeping well, doctor. And how is she feeding? She's got a good appetite. Then maybe it's her diaper making her wet. But a diaper doesn't leak. It's not only about leakage. A diaper can feel dry on the outside but could still be wet inside. That could be why she doesn't sleep well. That's why I recommend Pampers, because they keep your baby dry. Pampers locks wetness away from your baby's skin. With Pampers, you'll sleep peacefully, so she'll be ready to shine every morning.
Endorsed by Pediatric Association of Nigeria.
Yawa, Tan National Rally, Yanzu Seno Central Zone Kenang. everybody will like a better thing from Benue, Kwara, Niger, Plateau, Kogi, Nasarawa, or Abuja. The Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria, Hena Greater Dukambo, make we come together for Trade Fair Complex at Pike Road, Mina, Niger State. Inshallah, on Saturday, 13 September 2014, wonderful people of the North Central Zone, to say thank you to President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan for all the transformational activities in the North Central states. Kuma to join other Nigerians and say Kachigaba, the South is Donduam, Southwest Edunduam, South Kuma Edunduam. Haba! For North Central Zone, we go do our own very special Gaskia Tan North Central Zone Rally 2014, the grandfather of all rallies. Saturday, September 13, 2014, Trade Fair Complex, Pike Road, Mina, Niger State. Me, I go there. You know fit miss am.
This message is brought to you courtesy Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria. Down for one vision, Nigeria.
A new day is almost a clean slate. The plethora of opportunities offered. The chance to choose.
Investing in agriculture is the key.
Set your agenda. Begin your day. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, let's talk about business now. Though today's issue seems to be tailored along the business lines. Kingsley.
Tailored, I like that.
Yes. And don't take me back to what you're wearing, because Kingsley, you weren't able to justify, why you're putting on what you're wearing at the moment. But
Claire, I said that to an extent I'm compliant, because the textile industry also includes tailoring, which is very crucial. And what I'm wearing, is tailored here in Nigeria.
It's tailored here, but where did you get the materials? I thought that, well, before now, the textile industry had, like we said earlier on, been moribund. It had been in the doldrums, yes, and a lot of people, of course, started patronizing imported materials. And you, for one, you're yet to get out of that habit.
No, Claire, let's not go into this, because the textile industry incorporates everything that we wear. It also incorporates the sheets that we use on our
Kingsley,
beds.
you're a lawyer, I'm not. So I know I can't win this case with you. Let's move on now. African Development Bank Group approves a total of $256 million for the financing of investments in Nigeria and Ethiopia. Now we have details on Business News with Sheung Ogunloye.
The Board of Directors of African Development Bank Group, AFDB, has approved a total of $256 million for the financing of investments in Nigeria and Ethiopia. This comprises a $150 million senior loan to Lekki Port Lagos Free Trade Zone Enterprise for the construction of a greenfield seaport in the LFTZ. The loan for the LFTZ project followed a 45-year concession granted to Lekki Port LFTZ Enterprise, LPLE, the special purpose vehicle of the Nigerian Port Authority, NPA, under a build, own, operate and transfer scheme. A statement obtained from the AFDB's website further explained that the approval for the loan, which was granted in Abidjan, involves the construction of port infrastructure such as breakwaters, quays, approach channels, dredging of the basin, as well as captive utilities such as water and power. In Nigeria, on completion, the ports would handle 2.5 million 20-foot equivalent units, 16.7 million tons of liquid cargo and 4.5 million tons of dry bulk. Construction is expected to start in January 2015, with the container terminal operations expected to start in December 2018. The project, estimated at $1.675 billion, would be financed through a 54-46 debt equity ratio. It is aligned with the bank's Nigeria Country Strategic Paper 2012 to 2016, which stresses infrastructure development in the non-oil and transport sector, as well as country's Vision 2020, which emphasizes modernizing infrastructure. The project is also in line with the bank's Regional Integration Strategy paper, RISP, for West Africa, which emphasizes linking regional market through regional transport infrastructure. A recent survey conducted by the National Association of Nigerian Traders revealed that intra-regional trade within the ECOWAS sub-region has reduced to about 46%. This is due to Ebola outbreak that has ravaged 4 countries in West Africa and has had significant effect on the socio-economic life of ECOWAS member countries. President of the National Association of Nigerian Traders, Ken Ukoha, who disclosed these in an interview, said that the spread and the shortening of borders by some member countries has been identified as responsible for the slow in regional trading activities.
Member countries now are shutting their borders down. Airports shut down. Land borders shut down. And then people quarantined. Therefore, number one is that it instigates serious fear in the people. And don't forget, goods and services cannot move without the people.
Okoa, however, commended Nigeria for its ability to manage and contain the spread of the disease with little or no economic implication on the country.
Even foreign countries started admonishing their own nationals not to travel to West Africa, because West African countries started closing their borders by themselves. That's not the way to do it. There's an integration of the community. And that's why I hail Nigeria. When this happened, people were thinking that Nigeria was going to close the borders and all that, but Nigeria managed this effectively. I commend this administration for this.
President of the National Association of Nigerian Traders, Ken Ukoha, there. Finally, on the business package this morning, the Indian High Commissioner, Mr. Ganashian, has disclosed that the bilateral trade between Nigeria and India has increased to $19.5 billion annually. Ganashian revealed these at the maiden edition of the Nigerian Leadership Initiative Diplomatic Dialogue series held in Lagos. Ganashian said the last figure of trade between Nigeria and India is $19.5 billion and the relationship is growing. He said at the rate it is going, it may shoot up beyond $20 billion this year. Also, members of the Nigerian-India Chamber of Commerce at the event urged the federal government to evaluate the issue of double taxation in Nigeria in order to improve bilateral trade between both countries. Ganashian, who also spoke on the issue of multiple taxation, expressed the need to seriously look into the challenges posed by double taxation in order to improve economic growth and employment in both countries. He added that Nigeria is the largest trading partner with India, and Indian-owned companies are second highest employer in the country. Also, the President, Nigeria-India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Umo Itsueli, said Nigeria is an emerging economy, so is India, China, and these are countries that, if you look at projection made around world over, in the next 20 to 30 years, are economies that would surpass even the United States of America. And that's it on the business package this morning. Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you there for the business news. We are now having the newspaper review segment of the Good Morning Nigeria program. As usual, Bayo Atoyebi is here with us for the newspaper review. Bayo, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. First, Claire, this morning we have quite a number of papers, around about 12 or so, and so we'll see how we go through the papers. Obviously, the front pages of the papers that we have are also very busy because they indicate a number of the stories that are also, the news stories that are also in the inside pages. We kick off with Vanguard. And the lead story in the Vanguard has a kicker. It's on Ebola. It says, Ebola, South African passenger quarantined in Lagos. South African passenger quarantined in Lagos. And then there are 3 riders there, bulletized. The first one says that that's the passenger now. He walked in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and then took ill at Murtala Mohammed Airport, Lagos. And beware of fake test kits and sanitizers. That's the federal government. And OAU bars foreign students from returning for semester. Those are the kickers to that particular story. Of course, on the front page, there's a photograph of a night from the event that took place yesterday, a night of tributes to the late Dr. Adadevoh, who, of course, passed on after handling Patrick Sawyer, the Liberian-American who brought Ebola into Nigeria. Also on the front page of the Vanguard, just below the name flag, it's a story on Boko Haram. And Boko Haram, that's the kicker. Panic in Maiduguri. Shehu of Bama trapped, and troops moving to protect city. Details to be found on page 8. And also at the foot of the paper, there are 3 promotional stories there. One is a foreign copy. Blade Runner, that's Oscar Pistorius, not guilty of murder. That's according to the court. Details on page 63. And Heritage Bank emerges preferred bidder of Enterprise Bank. Details to be found on page 10. And on page 8, promoted on the front page, is a story that says Modu Sheriff, not part of Jonathan's delegation to Chad. That's according to Ruben Abati, spokesperson for the president. Claire?
Okay, I quickly take 2 papers, Kingsley. The front pages of Daily News Watch now. And Daily News Watch is leading with South African Ebola suspect held at Lagos Airport. South African Ebola suspect held at Lagos Airport is what Daily News Watch is leading with this morning. And below the lead story, a picture story there of President Goodluck Jonathan, Vice President Namadi Sambo, and a couple of other members of the, of course, medical profession there after a meeting of the president with the committee. That's the Committee on World-Class Hospitals in Abuja yesterday. And there you have the picture story in front of you. Just trending on the front page also, there are quite a number of stories there. Modu Sheriff in Chad on private visit. That's on the center page there, page 2. Details can be found. And Obasanjo's son leaves hospital. Army vows to protect Maiduguri. Details on page 4. It's also trending on the front page. And just above the masthead, a little above the masthead, ACF to federal government. ACF to federal government. Don't use ex-militants to fight Boko Haram. Don't use ex-militants to fight Boko Haram. It's riding with Army deploys more troops to Northeast. And that does it for Daily News Watch. And we just quickly move over to The Nation. And The Nation, it's leading again with the story on Boko Haram. And it reads, Boko Haram, North lists its case against Jonathan. North lists its case against Jonathan. That's the lead story. And it has a writer, ACF gives federal government wake-up call on security. ACF gives federal government wake-up call on security, and coming down, tilting a bit down. Other stories there, just on the left earpiece there, All Giant grabs contract from local company. All Giant grabs contracts from local company. Federal government cautioned on Local Content Act. It's just right trending on the front page. And a picture story there that can also be found in other, I think 1 or 2 of the papers we have here this morning. You have it there, protesting Kuje traders there, protesting the location of an Ebola center at the Kuje General Hospital in Abuja. And the placards tells all the story there. You can read the inscriptions and the placards. Now, just above the masthead, going above the masthead quickly, President denies taking Modu Sheriff to Chad. It's on the left earpiece there. President denies taking Modu Sheriff to Chad. And on the right earpiece, trending stories, news, FCT owes Abuja owners 200 billion naira. Details on page 11. And in sports, Keshi defends Emenike's game. Details are on page 41. And 66,000 for 10,000 housing slots. That's on the business news. Okay, Kingsley, I think we'll go over to Mr.
Well, quickly, the issue of insurgency has come to the fore. The elder, somebody representing Bama people, Alhaji Mudu Hassan, has claimed that Bama is still under the control of the insurgents. And also Alhaji Jidda Hassan, who says he's the leader of the elders in Borno, particularly in Maiduguri, comprising of former civil senior officers, ex-military officers, have also said that there is serious concern that Maiduguri is under siege. The alarm raised here is also a matter of the operational modalities of our armed forces. This should not be a subject of discussion in the media, but what the elders are saying that the reported claim that our soldiers are not as equipped as the insurgents is not correct. They are saying that from all indications, the arms that the insurgents have are those that they have seized from police stations, barracks they are using, and all that is required is that soldiers need special attention and encouragement, and they should be reorientated to be patriotic and courageous. More importantly, they said that they fear that Maiduguri is under siege. However, the defense headquarters has also warned that they should desist from causing panic, that Maiduguri is not under siege. In fact, 500 troops have been deployed to the Madagali axis, which is the part of Bama, and the defense headquarters had categorically stated that the listed towns that are under, that they have taken control over, and it's not true that the Boko Haram are taking over those places. Among the places they listed are Mubi, Michika, Baza, Gulak, Goza, Bama, Gabarungala are all being stabilized against the failed terrorists. And the defense headquarters has said categorically that they frown at the determination of the media to cause panic. And they also have called that negative reports from which they are using mostly are from social media and foreign agencies, and they are not very correct. And therefore, there is a need to be very careful. We all know that in war situations, truth is always the first casualty. The other one is the report about Ebola. As of today, the student of the OAU University who was suspected have tested negative to Ebola. Actually, the alarm was raised because she confessed upon being treated that she had contact with the Port Harcourt doctor. That was why the alarm was high. The 18-month-old baby too has also been given a clean bill of health. And as at now, there are conflicting reports about one person who arrived Lagos who has been quarantined, so to say, for suspicion and to be tested whether he has Ebola or not. Some are saying he's South African, others are saying he is Liberian. Also at the northern fringes, at the border at Ilela, Sokoto, 42 people were stopped by health officials because they resisted being tested. And either they wanted to go out of Nigeria or come into Nigeria, they were resisted. But the most important one to remark, particularly today, is that Dr. Stella Adadevo, who stood out for all of us all to stem what would have been a pandemic in Lagos, is to be buried today. And there are concerns and are being raised that this woman deserves to be honored for the sacrifice she has made for our nation. So those are the two perspectives now.
Quickly, we just go over now to Business Day. We'll just take a few stories from the front page of Business Day. The lead story on Business Day says foreign portfolio investors pulled 426.37 billion naira out of stock markets. That's the lead story on the front page of Business Day. And also on the front page, cargo clearing delay worsens as customs PAAR fails. And just below the name flag of Business Day is a story, it's a news copy, details to be found on page 7. It says South African woman quarantined on on Ebola fear, and also on the front page there, Africa's stock markets must facilitate wealth creation. That's according to Imohwede, who was speaking at a function. Then we go over now to the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust, the front page of the Daily Trust, of course, is similar. The lead story there is similar to what we read earlier. Jonathan, I didn't take Sharif to Chad. That's on the front page there. And federal government deploys 500 more troops to fight Boko Haram. That's also on the front page. And the front page photograph there is a rally, a march on the Bring Back Our Girls. And trapped Burma women and kids starving to death. That's in quotes on the front page there. And then Italy's NA CEO faces corruption probe over Malabo deal. That's on the front page. On page 3 of Daily Trust, federal government, lack of funds stalls completion of 84 hospitals. Of course, that story has to do with the setting up of a ministerial committee on the establishment of 6 world-class hospitals in the 6 geopolitical zones.
Okay, let's quickly look at the National Mirror. The National Mirror's lead story, it's an insurgency, and it writes with its military deploys more troops to Gulak and Mubi. It writes with DHQ shapes arsenals to defend Maiduguri. And just above that, it's right there on your screen, federal government orders processing of 66,400 mortgage applications, and that's trending just above the masthead there. Not all bush meat bad, says minister, and you have the minister's photograph there. Another Ebola scare at Lagos Airport. Mr. Toyebi has told us this has not, of course, the identity of this person has not been cleared. It has not been confirmed whether Liberian or South African. And moving down, again, the picture story I told you earlier on, it's trending on the front page of National Mirror. And the bottom, at the foot there, Fayemi civil societies knock Jega on polling units, and writes with Shehu Sani reject attack on INEC boss. Sharif not on Jonathan's delegation to Chad. That's coming from the presidency, is at the foot. And lastly, we have Blueprint. It's leading with a story, couple of stories there. Gunmen sack 1,000 in Zamfara. That's the lead story. But just before that lead story, there's a trending story there. NUC parades fake professors, and also the story on the presidency's response or remarks on Modu Sharif's trip to Chad is also there. But the main picture story on the front page of the Blueprint is that of Oscar Pistorius in court yesterday, and of course, latest information as to his trial is that the very famous South African judge, black judge, now known as Malady Masipa, has of course delivered a verdict that he did not commit murder his girlfriend, but would of course deliver a verdict on a lesser charge of culpable homicide later today. And man arraigned for raping 3-year-old girl. That's the last story trending on the front page of the Blueprint. Mr. Toyebi.
Let's take Friday leadership on Friday. We'll call Friday leadership. Just on there are some promotional stories there. The lead story, of course, has to do with the foreign Ebola patient who has been quarantined in Lagos, and 42 persons who have been stopped at the Sokoto border. But just at the foot of the paper, it's a story, details to be found on page 15. Federal government housing scheme, 66,402 persons or people scramble for 10,000 mortgages. That's on the front page of leadership. And also on page 8 of leadership, I won't interfere with Modu Sharif's probe. That's according to President Goodluck Jonathan. That's the much we can take. As I said, we have a lot of papers. The Sun, of course, also has similar stories on its front page on terrorism, of course, follow-up stories on Igwe and several others, yes. Bayo?
Well, from perspective of human interest, cattle rustlers are also on the prowl in Zamfara, and that must also attract our concern. In the village of Akuzo, 14 people were said to have been killed, and also Zamfarawa Girke, about 14 people were killed, and that I think there is need to look into that area, because if you look at the recent happenings around that axis, there has been sporadic incursions by gunmen. Sometimes they call them Fulani cattlemen, sometimes they say gunmen from across the border, and it's a matter of concern. Well, the issue of Modu Sharif on the presidential delegation, I think, has been cleared. The reports clearly says that he was not on the list of the presidential delegation. He was in N'Djamena, and he joined the Nigerians who were at the airport to welcome the president. I think the misinformation must have arisen from agency photographs that were sent from N'Djamena and published, which seem to have located the former Borno State governor with the president. The other issue is Afenifere, Akai Ikenga, and also the Southern People's Assembly calling for the head of the chairman of the INEC. And this is based on simple mathematical projection based on the 2015 election. You will recall that INEC has said there were 120 polling booths. And if you are to have voters, 500 per polling booth, that will add up to 60 million voters. And that was based on the 1996 census result. With our population now having increased to almost 170.
No, the census was 2006.
2006.
Yes.
Now, with election coming in 2015, the INEC is now projecting to add another 30,000 polling booths to bring it to 150,000 polling booths. And if you multiply that by 500 per each polling booth, that would take us to about 75 million. But the argument of those who are saying that no, that cannot be correct is that the original projection before now was 70 million voters. And by the time you did the permanent voters register and claims and objection, the population has dropped to about 57. Therefore, there is a lot of explanation between the 57 million and the projected 75 million. Well, you know, when it comes to politics, suspicion and lack of mutual trust becomes the order of the day. What I think needs to be emphasized is that we need to have confidence in our public institutions, and our public institutions also need to be very transparent and open in all their strategies. All those who have doubt, and the INEC should be able to meet and iron out all the differences. It will go a long way in establishing, rather solidifying the foundation of our democracy, rather than casting doubt on the election that is coming in 2015.
With that, I think we're okay with the newspaper review for now.
Thank you.
We'll get on with our issue. We're actually, by the way, we're discussing Nigerian textile industry, reviving Nigerian textile industry. And earlier on here, Kingsley admitted partial compliance, partial compliance. How compliant are you?
Well, I'm very compliant. What I'm wearing is Nigerian. And what I would recommend is what the new Indian Prime Minister said. He said, if you want to buy a car, buy the made in India. If you want to buy a dress, buy it made in India. If you want to buy anything at all,
buy made in Nigeria.
Well,
I substitute that for buy made in Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bayo Atoyebe. That does it for this segment. We'll move on now with the main issue for this morning, but that will be in a moment.
Running on the network service of the NTA from the stable of the NTA Educational Television, this quarter, a wide variety of educational programs. Fun Bus, Tuesdays 5:30 p.m. It is fun-filled and educative for children ages 5 to 11. Walk It Out, Saturdays 9 a.m. Walk It Out is a mathematics quiz program for students of junior secondary schools. Take a Step, Tuesdays 6 p.m. with a repeat broadcast on Sunday 10 a.m. Take a Step is a general purpose quiz program for students in senior secondary schools. Young Inventors, join the Young Inventors every Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Young Inventors encourages and celebrates creativity, ingenuity, and originality among children and young adults. It's a bouquet of active participation, learning, and being educated in an interesting way.
My little angel loves to play in the mornings, all because he sleeps so well. New Pampers has more super gel and less bulk to lock in wetness better, keeping your baby dry all night long. So when he wakes up, he enjoys playtime all over again. New Pampers, more super gel and less bulk. Pampers.
A new day is almost a clean slate. The plethora of opportunities offered. The chance to choose.
Investing in agriculture is the key.
Set your agenda. Begin your day. Good morning, Nigeria.
Welcome back. Now, statistics show that in 1986, just before the structural adjustment program of the federal government in Nigeria, there were 175 or over, as we later found out, functional textile mills in the country, with over 800,000 employees, constituting about 63% of West Africa's textile manufacturing capacity. Now, as the years went by, the sector experienced a host of challenges that grounded its activities. An intervention fund was later set aside by the government to address the challenges in the sector. But as we gather from Anne Jibuno in this report, progress has been rather slow.
At the time, the textile industry was the second biggest employer of labor in Nigeria, contributing significantly to the national economy. The fortunes of the industry began to nosedive in the 1990s. Economic and political realities forced many of the textile mills to close shop in the wake of massive smuggling and importation of textiles into the country. The situation became worse in 1997 when the ban on textile importation was lifted. By 2008, there were only 25 functional textile mills in Nigeria operating at a very low capacity, with 25,000 people in their workforce, shrinking output to 12% of the domestic market. The companies functioning at that time were not producing at full capacity, as high cost of production, erratic power supply, high taxes and lack of support made operation a challenge. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria says in 2010, the capacity utilization of surviving textile mills stood at 29.14% and 49.7% in 2011. In 2012, a 20% levy on imported textile materials was set aside by the federal government to fund the sector. Known as the Textile Intervention Fund, it is currently being managed by the Bank of Industry at 6% interest. 38 firms benefited from this 100 billion naira Textile Intervention Fund in 2013, but the textile unions have, however, asked for an increase in the fund with zero interest rate and a 20-year tenure to provide cheap funds and guaranteed markets. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria asserts that 73% of textile and garment sector goods in the domestic market are smuggled. The association suggests that government should make it difficult for smuggled products to be paid by tightening access to foreign exchange through unofficial channels. Experts add that Nigeria's early membership of the World Trade Organization exposed its infant textile industries to unhealthy competition, and cited the example of China, who only just joined the organization after perfecting the art of manufacturing. They say Nigeria cannot continue to be a dumping ground for textile materials, some of which are inferior to locally produced ones. They, however, suggest that the Textile Intervention Fund should be properly managed, while government should develop strategies to effectively protect the local market for local manufacturers.
With us this morning to discuss the fortunes of the Nigerian textile industry, particularly the efforts at reviving that particular industry, is Comrade Issa Aremo, General Secretary of the National Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria. Comrade Issa, would like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay, let's look at it this way. The problems that afflicted the textile industry are probably fairly well known. And our focus now would be, from our conversation, on the effectiveness of the intervention by the federal government, namely the 100 billion naira that has been disbursed through the Bank of Industry. How effective has it been? And where are we climbing out of the woods?
Well, we are climbing, but we are not yet out of the woods. I think that's the bottom line. First, the intervention is quite significant because, at least for the first time in recent time, government seems to be concerned about the need to revive the industry. And then, watching your tape, you can see there's once a country, with apology to Chinua Achebe, in which Nigeria was actually an investment destination. I mean, it's quite an irony today You see our leaders going from Europe to America looking for foreign investment. But this used to be the home of investment, as you can see in the case of textile. By 1985-86, we were the largest producer of textile in Africa. We were only beaten to it by Egypt and to some extent South Africa. We were the third, and the way Nigeria was going, we would have been one of the leading. I mean, we would have been the biggest textile producing factory in the country. All the value chains were producing. You know, there was a time we even banned importation of lace in this country because we had the capacity to produce lace. And from your figure, close to almost 200 textile mills we had in Nigeria, employed direct job of close to almost about 250,000, direct jobs. But as I'm talking to you today, we just have effectively between 25 to 30 textile mills that are still functioning.
Let me just
with employment figure between 25 to 30,000. And that is because there has been relative stability, in the last 4 years, because of the government intervention, to quickly point blank respond to your answer in terms of what has been the impact. UNTL, that used to be the largest textile mill in West Africa, when UNTL was UNTL in Kaduna, United Textile, it was employed direct jobs of 10,000 workers, 10,000 direct. When you say you had indirect suppliers, all the value chains, thanks for, that gives you an idea. It closed down in 2007, as part of the massive crisis. But because of the intervention, it came back in 2010. I mean, today it's employed close about just 1,500 jobs. I mean, it has not really expanded the way we. So what I want to say here is that the intervention has been a bit significant. First, reversed the trend of the sharp fall, and to some extent, it has led to some revival. But in the course of our discussion, you should know that financing is only one problem. There are other problems.
I was going to ask you, but in the course of your discussion, you are a member. You're not just a member. You're General Secretary of this union, National Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring of Workers of Nigeria. In the past, like you said, it could be fashionable. Is it still fashionable today? Is it still fashionable to be a member of this, union? What is the attraction now?
Well, it's, the attraction, I've given you the figures that we have close to 25 to 30,000 workers. That's still quite significant. I mean,
compared to where we used to be.
Yeah, well, compared to where we used to be, it could be, it's not as significant, but when you compare to other sectors, there are industries that are not as labor intensive as textile. Then the second point is also that it is because textile industry is quite organized. That's why our nurse level is very high. We have a remarkable union. We always say that we are one of the most organized private sectors, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa as a whole. We are still a key player in our industrial global union within the Africa. I'm the chairman of the industrial hall, because of the way we organize. Together with South Africa, Egypt, a good number of players, so they know we are still significant. When I see, say, 35,000 compared to many other African countries, we are still among the first 10. You don't forget that industrialization is still on reversal in the continent. Then the reason why I say that our nurse level is because we are organized, so people are aware of the state of the industry. But there are more depressed sectors than ours because they are not organized. As I'm talking to you, automobile is still quite depressed. They don't have this kind of number of employment, automobile industry. Dunlop tires, Dunlop tire producing factory, footwear, they are gone. A precision sector. So what I want to say is that it's not so much the attraction. We still have jobs to do within the industry. And because of our collaboration with our employers as well as government in policy advocacy, the industry, that's why we are seeing some level of revival back. But as I said before, financing is only one problem. You have a problem of smuggling. We lose, it's quite significant that Nigeria loses close to 300 billion naira due to smuggled textile mills to this country. 300 billion naira. You know, in fact, our market is virtually dominated by imported goods. You know, and mostly, even if they are imported, that will be fine because they pay duties. It's pure smuggling. And with that, the government is also losing value-added tax. So I think combined with the financing, the attraction of the intervention fund, it's not, don't forget about it, it's not free fund. It's not a grant. It's a loan. But the attraction of it is that it is single digit. It's not like commercial loans where you borrow at 28% when you are competing with made in China, which borrows at 0 interest rates. Then the long-term payment is also the attraction. Now, and that was the miracle in the 70s, 80s, because Nigeria had industrial plan for development. We have NIDB of those days, which is now Bank of Industry. That's the one that financed industry, long-term funding in those days. Then, of course, electricity. You can't have industrialization without electrification. You can't be competitive when you are using generators because the cost of production is very high compared to made in Bangladesh, made in China goods, India, which have uninterrupted power supply. Then you must have consistent industrial policy. So if you put a ban on products that you can produce locally, am I communicating? You should be able to enforce it. Yeah, I mean, African print will have competitive advantage, but not even ban. If you put in duties, you must let them pay the duties, not that you allow them to bring goods in. You know, so the attraction for Nigerian consumers, why they buy imported or smuggled goods, let me put it that way, is because the prices are relatively cheaper, even though of poorer quality. You know, but because of the level of poverty, people will look at the pricing. You know, but why is it that they were cheaper? The imported goods are cheaper. It's precisely because they don't pay duties. They don't compete. There is no level playing field. So government must enforce that. Then the third one, which I think is important, and I think Atoyebi talked about it, patronage is extremely important. Nigeria is a big spender annually. I mean, compared to many African countries. I mean, this is a country of 5 trillion naira budget. You know, what is the local content of the pattern of spending? I'm saying this because, I mean, we're fashionable people. Apart from that, police uniform, army uniform, school uniforms. That's what they do in India. They make sure that they patronize. You can build not close to about 50 factories alone just to supply school uniforms. And for a country like Nigeria with this huge population, you want to engage in peacekeeping missions. You need tarpaulins. We have factories that produce them. But you'll be shocked. These factories have to be competing with factories from China. I mean, it doesn't make sense, you know. So again, government can channel its pattern of spending to revive the industry. And it's not just in textile, in all sectors. I mean, why would you want to be importing MW, you know, Koja, you know the story. We imported from South Africa, where you are Pujo. That you can.
Conrad,
yes.
let's focus more essentially now on the textile industry. You've ticked off some of the other challenges, in addition to what the financing arrangement has tried to bridge. Smuggling, obviously, we all know is a criminal offense. And smuggling takes place because of failure of certain agencies. You know, it's like if a person said, you know, oh, somebody has died. What killed him? Oh, he was shot by armed robbers. Sometimes we make it look like armed robbery is a legitimate business. Everybody complains about smuggling and smuggling and smuggling. What, in your opinion, can be done to reverse the trend of smuggling? It's as if our borders are just, you know, pretty wide open for anybody to bring in anything.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's all an aspect of our life. In fact, somebody has argued that we're more or less a containers economy. It's a country of containers. I mean, where you see the kind of traffic of all sorts of things that come to the country, they don't pass through any quality check. I think the bottom line is that the custom agencies must be on duty. I'm talking of Nigeria Customs Services. They've been doing very well. I mean, to some extent, you know, we see a lot of seizures, and also, but they can do more, and that requires they need to be properly retooled. They need to be given the equipment because smugglers have become, you know, a lot unto themselves. But above all, let me also put it this way. With all the effort of the customs, there's nothing they can do until we have a government or we have government policy, you know, that sees the need to produce locally patronize what we produce locally. And I used to say we should have a government that has a policy to say, as much as possible, let's produce what we consume, and let's try and consume what we produce. It's extremely, because, you know, with the no amount of effort of the custom, but when you have official policy that consciously even promotes importation of this old scale, I mean, series of waivers, you know the story of waivers in this country. Even when customs want to enforce legitimate duties that are supposed to be paid for, you give waiver. Waiver is just legitimate smuggling. And I know several times, I don't know, is it Comptroller General now, had raised an alarm. They were using trillions of naira due to waivers. Again, that is official policy. There's nothing custom could do. You know, when the conscious policy of the government is to give wholesale waiver. I mean, it's not that waiver is not bad if it's strategic in terms of inputs, but when you give waiver for wholesale finished goods, you flood the whole place with also of imported goods. So I think that's very, very significant. But the one that is even of...
Just to interject, there are at least two clear policies.
Yeah.
One, rice production, for instance. Yeah. We are striving towards self-sufficiency in rice production. Yeah. The federal government also has a policy of patronizing innocent vehicle manufacturing company, which is based at Nnewi, for instance, to say, look, produce the vehicle locally here, and the federal government will patronize you. But just please go ahead with your explanation.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe let me put it this way. What is good for rice is possibly more desirable for textile. You know, I mean, if given the figure, this is a labor-intensive industry. You know, Nigeria has no business with unemployment of any form if we can revive labor-intensive industries such as textile. You know, because I've given you an example. A single factory alone employed direct jobs of 10,000. The whole razzmatazz and the tragedy that followed the immigration employment scandal, how much placement did they put on? 4,500. Look at the number of people that came in. I mean, just entire federal immigration department, well, I don't know whether they could even generate that kind of job. Let's assume it's 4,500. One single textile factory employed 10,000. Now imagine we have 200 of that. We should be importing labor from Ghana, from Togo, because we have enough to absorb our people. And that was the case in those days. I mean, you know, look at the army of employed people. I'm not talking unemployed. In those days, in Naswani, Five Stars, Atlantic MP, the whole Ilukpeju, in fact, down to my two used to be textile road.
I used to stand by the Maturi end of Toyota bus stop, and you see, you know, traders, you know, on the other side of the road, traders in textile materials.
And the beauty of it is also the national character of this. The same thing about when Aba Textile Mill was Aba Textile. I mean, so same thing when workers come out in their large number, 5,000 direct jobs. The entire Trans-Amadi was largely textile mill. Yes. You know, you were fishing nets, you know, in what do you call it?
Mosquito nets.
Yeah, mosquito nets. We were producing them, you know, fishing nets, because, you know, they were targeted towards fishing industry there. Of course, Kakuri in Kaduna, you know, Nasarawa. In fact, that was the home of, you know, textile started from there in 1957.
In fact, we've lost count.
Bompai in Kano, you know, the Sharada. No, but so what I'm saying, when you talk of attraction, while we're still in industry, is that, I mean, we need to bring back this investment. And the campaign policy advocacy is coming up. The most significant good news I can see is that President Goodluck Jonathan just launched the Nigeria Industrial Revolution Plan. And one of the significant components of this plan is textile components. 2013, we were promised there will be new textile policy, but we are waiting for that, because that would be quite significant. If it is, you know, if this work out. Do you know India has Ministry of Textile? Pakistan has Ministry of Textile.
Is that what are you advocating?
Oh, we are advocating for that. China had entire 2 ministries. China employed directors of 17 million workers in textile. That's the entire value chain? Yeah, the entire value chain. I mean, 17 million direct jobs.
Oh, direct jobs.
Yeah, direct. I mean, when you talk of indirect value chain, you are talking of the double that figure. Yeah, it's 100 and so million. And that's why they could overflood everywhere, because they have a competitive advantage. I mean, It's sad now that African print, Chinese don't wear them. They produce them from China and give them.
You see, comrade, just before we leave, I know that you can take an intellectual view of this particular point that has been raised. And I think it's something that we need to also articulate.
Yeah.
One issue that some of the investors in the textile business have raised, at least in the last couple of years since the revival began, has to do with the absence of skilled manpower. They say a number of your members have exited from the industry, and I'm asking how long. I mean, of course, let me know that I should know that it takes a while to train somebody. How long will it take to reproduce, as it were, or produce new entrants into this particular field? That's one. The second one I would like you to take along with it, because it's a huge problem that under the doctrine of liberalization and globalization, our doors are so wide open that Nigerians are in fact advocates for producers in other economies while we are hurting inside. How can we reverse this? First, therefore, the one of training manpower, and secondly, dealing with the impact of globalization and liberalization of the textile industry.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, I mean, I'm happy you brought this through, the issue of manpower and skills. That's why I've told you that financing is only one problem, which intervention fund is is addressing. And even the intervention fund is nothing, 100 billion. I mean, we are spending 6 trillion naira to build out 4 banks through the intervention of AMCO. I'm just telling you this. 6 trillion just for 4 banks. Now you are talking of 200 textile mills that have gone under. I think you need more than a billion, 100 billion. So even in terms of financing, the money is still very token, even though we started, but I thought we should increase it. So I want to say that financing is one. I've talked about electrification, curbing smuggling, consistent policy, and the last one you also brought, significant manpower. So we need a holistic arrangement. Again, the miracle of our industry in the 80s was that we had active industrial training fund, ITF. It's still in existence, but we need to fund it more. It needs to be funded even both by employers. Employers pick certain percentage of money, government put counter, and they were training weavers, spinners. We had a lot of skills, value chain. Today, in terms of skills, we are not as competitive. That's why you see garments made possibly in Ghana, they're a bit, better. Finishing is a bit better compared to us. Even tailoring, which is the other small segment, subsector, we can do more. And that's why we're advocating that President Goodluck Jonathan just constituted the advisory council on this industrial revolution plan. That council must include the input from labor, textiles in particular. You get the point, so that we can also have our input. First, we need a national institute on textile for skill acquisition.
There's none now?
No, it doesn't exist. And it's amazing. How do you reinvent these weavers, spinners? Because now with the closures, a lot of de-skilling has taken place. Now for those who are reopening, they need more hands for them to work. In fact, the last time few factories we have in Kano, they were complaining of lack of skills, although also compounded because of insecurity. Some workers have relocated, with this insecurity. You can see also high insecurity undermines industrial development. So I perfectly agree with you. We need to retool, and that's why federal government. In fact, there is a new committee also set up 3 days ago. Federal government on job creation. How can you have a committee on job creation without labor-intensive sector like textile? The real jobs have to. I listened to your tape. In fact, you said second largest employer of labor. At a point, what government employment was second. Textile was the largest. No, I'm serious. Yes. You are talking of direct job of 200,000. Federal government doesn't employ. How many people are in public service? Combined states together, but nothing. Because this is the real engine of growth. If we can really make it possible, and the entire value chain, weaving, spinning. You also talk, cotton producers, which is a huge. Ginereals, harvesters, and some of them are already going to export. So I want to use this to call on federal government to relook at some of these committees and put the real stakeholders, that who can be able to drive and put proper input. Now, lastly, on globalization. Again, in fact, that's what destroys our industry. The way we uncritically under the military, in the 90s, Nigeria just woke up. You went to WTO, World Trade Organization, and then you went and signed, and then you open up your market uncritically. No transition period. WTO is meant for World Trade Organization, countries that are trading. First, you have not produced locally. What are you exporting? Then you went and joined the country. So in the process, we were importing from abroad, right, and we're not exporting. There's no reciprocity. And with rundown of governance, smuggling will replace importation. There's a difference between legitimate import. You know, our sector, we're not afraid of genuine competition. Once you pay your duties, you know, but you can't flood this place with made in China, Bangladesh, India, who are not paying duties, when Nigeria cannot even import to China.
Export.
I'm sorry, export to China.
The agreement on the common external tariff, I'm sure you know.
Yeah, it's also part of the problem, you know, and I think it's been debated. We've discussed with the coordinating minister several times, and I think she listened to us, that in this our common external tariff, you have to make sure you don't lower tariff in a way that you deindustrialize your own country. I mean, in this globalization, Europe knows its market. America knows its market. You know, they put on some regulatory agencies to protect jobs. In fact, what we saw in America under Obama, to revive the economy, he has to put a lot of restrictions on imports in many countries. So, yeah, so it's important where you have comparative advantage, like textiles, food and beverages, you know, because I'm adding the other sectors, you know, you must be able to put certain restrictions, you know, unless where you think you cannot really, you can't help, you know, you can allow it. And I think what we've done recently on automobile, I'm quite impressed about that, you know, even though we need transition program. You know, there's a new automobile policy, which is to improve local content. Companies like Peugeot can come back, and we can create jobs in the true sense of the word. I think what is good for the rice, cement too. The whole miracle of cement, Dangote is doing a good job, is because government gives support, long-term funding. You also put some restrictions on imports. You know, you put quality control, you know, which we are not putting now in the case of textile. I mean, people bring us some goods, people don't look at the quality, you know, to the country. Then lastly, let me add this, consistency in policy. You know, we have this ECG policy. Maybe you know it. ECG is the export grant, which is being given to companies that export. Because we still have some companies that export. They are supposed to get some certificates, they get some refund much more later. It was open to some abuses. Recently, government just put a ban on it, and that completely that is affecting adversely a good number of our few factories that are into export. I think if we want to save those factories, it's important that we revisit this airport promotion grant.
Very well, Comrade Issa Aremu, we'd like to thank you. Of course, we can go on and on this topic.
Let me also add that our future is reindustrialization.
Yes, we have to reindustrialize. We have other guests who will be joining us to amplify or to disagree with the points that we have canvassed in the course of this conversation.
Likely to agree.
We are all concerned because I mean, clothing is a basic human need. Yeah. Basic human need. Just as we were discussing, I just remembered something again. That's a different area. Automobile. You remember how the battery factories died in Nigeria?
Oh yeah, it's a
Barrack, whether it was also at Isoloclair. Remember that. So we'd like to thank you for being with us.
The key word is reindustrialization. You know, I mean, it's not just textile, all sectors producing. Thank you.
Very well. So we've been speaking with Comrade Issa Aremu, is the Secretary General of the National Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring Workers Union of Nigeria. Thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll take our other guest on this very important topic on reviving the Nigerian textile industry.
Wow. Tan National Rally. Yanzu se no Central Zone Kenang. Everybody will like a better thing from Benue, Kwara, Niger, Plateau, Kogi, Nasarawa, Har Abuja. The Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria, Hena Gretra Dukambo, make we come together for Trade Fair Complex at Pike Road, Mena, Niger State. Inshallah, on Saturday, 13 September 2014, wonderful people of the North Central Zone, to say thank you to President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan for all the transformational activities in the North Central States. Kuma to join other Nigerians and say Kachigaba, the Southeast Donduam, Southwest Donduam, South Kuma Donduam. Haba! For North Central Zone, we go do our own very special Gaskia Tan North Central Zone Rally 2014, the grandfather of all rallies. Saturday, September 13, 2014, Trade Fair Complex, Pike Road, Mena, Niger State. Me, I go there. You know fit me some.
This message is brought to you courtesy Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria. Done for one vision, Nigeria.
The Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria nationwide rally has kicked off from the southeast with an impressive collation of over 1.6 million signatories in support of President Goodluck Jonathan's transformation continuity. On Saturday, 23rd August, the historic town of Ibadan was the melting pot as Southwesterners trooped out massively to join the clarion call with over 1.8 million endorsements. On Saturday, 30th August, the geopolitical constituency of Mr. President South-South stood still with over 4 million signatories, a reverberating and unequivocal statement that President Jonathan, you have been tested and trusted. Continue your National Transformation Initiative. On Saturday, 13th September 2014, Mina, the Niger State capital, will be the rallying point for the North Central Zone. Arise, North Central Zone of Nigeria, and be counted. More Nigerians demand.
This message is brought to you courtesy Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria. Down for one vision, Nigeria.
Okay, this is Good Morning Nigeria, coming to you live on the network service of the NTA. We are discussing the resuscitation of the textile industry in Nigeria. We had a first guest already, Komedisa Aremu, and joining us now is a textile manufacturer, Alhaji Seidu Datijo Adhama. Datijo Adhama, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Okay, let's Claire. I think let's go back to the takeoff point of the textile industry, which has to do with your raw materials, and then the intervention that the government has provided. That's the 100 billion naira, which of course is providing some oxygen, as it were, for the textile industry. How has the intervention affected your ability to procure raw materials, your ability to reopen, your ability to function?
Actually, the intervention fund by the federal government has made a lot of impact by way of modernization and the refurbishing of our dilapidated machines, as well as plans for training. However, there are more challenges to be faced, and we are facing right now. But certainly, we are growing, and we are trying to come up. That's what I can say for this.
Okay, Elijah, we used to have a very booming textile industry in this country, and they used to produce cotton with, gin-race, which of course helped to produce materials, for our textile industry. I'm wondering, because I see that you brought some, cotton materials. So what happened? Why aren't you producing them anymore?
I wanted to explain a bit about the patronage many people are talking about. When you talk of textile industry, people think we are only talking about wrapper, about printed materials also. Textile industry is a very large industry that comprises so many things, starting from cotton, partly. That's natural fiber. There are many other fiber, man-made fiber. But I'm particular about cotton because of its capacity to employ people. We call it a poverty-fighting commodity. No nation that has the ability or the capacity to produce cotton will have business with poverty or unemployment or joblessness. We are saying cotton, for example. I have a few samples, 2 samples here. One is foreign, like this one. It's foreign. Okay. That's clear foreign. It's being used in almost all hospitals, all chemists, and so on. This one, no label. You don't know. Perhaps it is Nigerian, because they don't want to identify themselves, and it will be rejected. It is a very, very good cotton. Okay. You use cotton from birth to burial. You use cotton from birth to burial. Anybody that is born, any lady that delivers, needs cotton to be cleaned before birth. Sanitary. That is one. After birth, you go to you still need textile material to clothe the baby. Right from that time, whatever is in between birth and burial is textile. It's mainly cotton. So what we are saying, cotton or textile or garment is a complete chain that produces or protects the economy of any given nation. I will give you another example.
So just before you go, what's the difference between these two? This is locally produced.
I want to say this one is expected to be Nigerian. I'm saying this one is Nigerian because they didn't put their label.
Okay.
They don't want to say this is Nigerian. There is no reason why you import cotton, what do you call it? Cotton wool into this country. See the number of local governments we have in Nigeria. Each ward you go, perhaps you will get a small chemist. You need cotton there. See the number of consumption. See the number of employment cotton can produce. See the number of people that will be tailoring in the name of tailors. I will give you another example, I say, which cotton brings. If you look at the Nigerian population of about 167 million or thereabout, take 150 million people only. Under the poverty level of Nigeria today, give each Nigerian 3 pieces of underwear, pant particularly, pant. That means, that translates to 450 million pieces of pants per annum. Lifespan of any pant is usually 6 months, but use 3 pieces per annum for every Nigerian. How many hectares of land do you need to cultivate the cotton that will give you 450 million pieces of pant? How many tailors do you need to employ to tailors or to sew 450 million pieces of pants? How many cotton do you need? How many elastic cottage industry that you will put on the pants you will employ? How many polythene bag you need like this to package it? These are cottage industries that creates employment. And if you look at the cost, average cost of each pant, take it $1. Some even 500 naira, some 50 naira, of course. Take an average of 150 naira. Multiply $1 times 450 million pieces. You are talking of $450 million per annum per only pant of 3 pieces of pant per every Nigerian. And that translates to that 450 million does not go to a big man who earns 500,000 naira a month. The whole sum of this money, or not less than 80% of the $450 million, goes to only people that earns between 20,000 naira and 200,000 naira a month.
Amazing. Amazing. Alaji, see, I just want to, this is made in Malaysia. Now, why is it that the makers of this are supposed to be made in Nigeria?
This is my expectation, because there is no label. People don't want to identify their product. Then it is good. You go to any hospital, before they give you any injection, they have to take this and clean your vein. But still we import.
Well, Claire, I think we'll come again to the question of the impact of importation.
Question of what?
The question of importation.
Yes.
Of cotton and textile materials into our economy. Yes. I thought that your arithmetic was so stimulating. You were discussing just underwear alone. That's to say, that's the brief. Now, if you could also take that to vests.
Yes.
So, I mean, you and I, we are wearing our singlets.
Many ladies people use singlets.
Yes, ladies are wearing their bras, you know, and so on and so forth. And you all need textile. These are all textile products derived from cotton or other associated materials.
Yes.
Let's go back again now to the beginning, as it were, of the value chain.
Yes.
Cotton production. Where do we stand with cotton production today?
Well, cotton production in the past, you see, Nigeria in the past, according to records, used to contribute approximately about 18% of world need of cotton years back. With the abolition of cotton marketing board, everything started going down. You abolish marketing board, the farmers have no guaranteed market. It's not like food that you will buy, somebody, if you don't buy, somebody will buy and eat. Cotton is an industrial commodity. Somebody has to process it. That is why we call it a poverty-fighting commodity, because right from plantation up to fabric or up to a gown, you get labor input there, because even at the end of the day, you'll give a washman or somebody will wash the clothes for you. That is job. What we are saying, the cotton production can even represent a large portion of Nigerian revenue earning. It is a substitute to oil in some cases towards revenue generation. Apart from the job creation, apart from clothing, a policy that is needed to clothe the people. You live in a country where there is no standing policy, no legislation that guarantees Nigerians to be clothed. Clothing the nation is a necessity. It's a must for the government to have a policy that we must clothe our people. If an embargo is put on Nigeria, indirect embargo is put in Nigeria on clothing, hardly you will see people wearing good clothing, because we don't have any plan. Even spinning plant now, we don't have spinning plant to process the cotton we are having. And there is big need to go back into establishment of spinning plants to make sure that cotton plantation is protected through this spinning. Spinning is the second basis of textile. After ginning, from plantation, from getting the raw cotton, you gin it, you extract, you remove the seed, you get the lint, then you spin. Spinning is an export business. You can export the yarn. Yeah. You can process the yarn. You can enable small textile mills to come up of just say like 100 million, 200 million naira to come up, because they don't need to invest in spinning, because spinning is a very, very large investment. Then they can go into direct weaving or knitting to produce the fabric. Then you can go to the finishing. Other companies may even establish finishing departments while they can get the woven fabric from another factory. Do the finishing. Finishing means either dyeing, bleaching, printing, and so on. Then the garment sector. Garment will now take the fabric, go and cut it and do whatever, uniforms, whatever type of clothing they do. Textile, CTG, as the government now calls it, as we advise the government to call it, cotton, textile, and garment, is a business that a country can rely on to protect the people, to protect the economy, to promote employment, to create job opportunity, to source revenue for the government at local level, at state level, at federal level. It is very, very simple to control the importation of textile material, and it is very simple to promote the production of cotton through irrigation, through rain-fed plantation, and so on. Today in Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge, in a hectare, you don't produce more than half a ton, as against Asians that produce 4 tons per same hectare under same management. 4 tons different, from 500 kilograms, half a ton in a hectare to 4 tons. If Nigeria will have that policy to say, let us produce the cotton that is being produced by other countries, because we have the land, we have the people, we have the money to do that, we have the market. Somebody, a foreigner, recently, not quite up to a year, I call it an insult to our nation, talk to us in Kano, or talk to our people in Kano with some government officials saying that they have brought business, or they have transact business of finished textile products in Kano market alone. That's Kwari market, or Kano, let's call it Kano as a whole, to the tune of $4 billion in 6 months. In Kano market alone, he confessed voluntarily, and he's a foreigner, and he was talking to government officials. And when we analyzed that amount, we saw that the 6 months is, first of all, is what we call informal business, informal transaction, which means no enough taxes and so on paid. Secondly, that huge sum of money is not money that one can easily even say perhaps wrongly transacted, or even the period of 6 months is what we call off-season. Off-season means period when you don't have Salah, you don't have marriages, you don't have Christmas, you don't have this and that. What happens if a foreign investor in finished textile material will voluntarily confess that he has made a business of $4 billion in one market in Nigeria, Kano market? Kano is a market. What will happen in on-season? That is when you have Christmas, you have Salah, you have academic session, when schools resumes, and so on. When textile business is a must. That's
Alhaji, that's the perspectives that you have introduced, Claire. Obviously, but these are perspectives that I think we'll have to take up again in a subsequent edition of the program. But one aspect is this. I recall that recently, the ginneries in Zamfara, for instance, have begun to function much better than they were doing in the past. But you have also raised other aspects, which would tend, of course, to virtually corroborate the point made by Comrade Issa Aremu, that the injection of 100 billion naira by the federal government is fine. But
of course it's fine.
Yeah, but a lot more still needs to be done.
In fact, to be precise, I need to mention the contribution of 3 institutions or 3 government functionaries in this country. BOI, of course, is doing a lot, but they need to do more. They need to get more support from the government. That is one. The Minister of Industries, that's Chief Aganga, he personally paid a visit to my factory. He requested for my input. I did. In the present policy we are having, which they call Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan, yes. Sorry, not policy, plan yes. A lot of our inputs are there. He listened to us. He made a good presentation or a presentation to the federal government on our behalf, and we are happy to mention that he has done a lot of good things, and he's doing a lot of things, and we are expecting more. Lastly, if you see some government's efforts in the country, you have to praise our governor. Kwankwaso is doing a lot because he's going to the grassroots management of the sector, beginning from garments. He's establishing 44 garment centers in Kano, meaning each local government is having 1 garment center, trying to, according to the plan, which I am a member of the committee, having a plan that will make Kano in the next 10 years, hopefully, to be a garment center of West Africa that is capable of producing garments of all culture, of all religion, of all nations. That is the plan we are trying to make. And this is a historic something that in the past, during Trans-Sahara trade, Kano used to be a garment center of West Africa. That's what Kwankwaso is now trying to bring back by setting up garment centers in each local government. I'm a member of the technical committee. He's doing a lot. So what we are saying now, I forgot to mention the good thing that BOI is trying to do, and we are hopefully expecting Mr. President during the budget to finish up, because I think maybe BOI is only going slow to allow Mr. President to say the remaining things. The single digit we are talking about that I have just heard, some people are saying 6%, it's now reduced to 4%. Oh, that's great. We were asking for 0%, of course. We are asking for 0 interest rate. We started from during Obasanjo with 11%.
But let me quickly ask you, within the last few seconds we have, what are you doing to also encourage young farmers? Because there are quite young farmers, young cotton farmers, because there are not many of them have a passion for cotton cultivation. What are you doing? What are people like you doing to also encourage them?
You see, as a textile and garment manufacturer, I have little to do to encourage cotton farmers. Government has to come in and National Assembly members of the National Assembly have to come in. State governments must come in. The agricultural development, what do you call them? These development agencies have to come in to make sure that these farmers are well educated, well equipped, well trained, so that they can produce, and there must be a guaranteed market. There must be a legislation that will encourage the patronage of all the value chain. There must be a situation whereby all stakeholders realize that the 25 states we are having now in the country that we call cotton producer states, major and minor, and the few states that we are calling textile cities in the country and garment cities. We need to expand. There is no time to make expansion. Yeah. But we have what we call garment cities in this country. We have textile cities in this country. We have cotton producer states in this country. When there is time, we now talk about these people. So there is little I can do, or that our sector, with the stakeholders in the manufacturing sector can do to help them. But we really need government to come and establish a cotton board that will be guarantee a market for them, will guarantee the standardization, standard grading the cotton, grade A, grade B, grade C cotton, and the good price for their products.
All right, Alhaji Saidu Dattijo Adhama, our discussions with you, I must confess, have been quite illuminating. Thank you for coming to Good Morning Nigeria. And we do, like Kingsley said, we do hope to, continue with this discussion. Honestly, Kingsley, I found this very interesting, particularly the cotton, farming. It's quite illuminating, considering the fact that just have a feel of this.
Alhaji gave us a phrase, namely that every human being needs cotton from birth to death.
From birth to death, yeah.
Every human being needs
office,
it.
In
That's
office, you
everywhere.
Textile.
So
in toilets, in your bathroom, you get towel. In your beddings, you have bedsheet,
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Alhaji, I'm afraid I must stop at this point. One thing, Kingsley, I just like to say that, okay, if this is made in Nigeria, if you're watching this program, if this cotton is made in Nigeria, please go out for it. We've been told this is the best, and indeed the field confirms.
Yes,
the field confirms.
Free advertisement for them.
Confirms, and I can yes, very soft, very soft and smooth. Yes, very soft, very soft. So
very highly absorbent. And Claire, just we're taking a break now. When you mentioned the revival of the cotton board, I just remembered, it's off custom. It's a case in property law. It has to do with tenancy. Sule and the Nigerian Cotton Board. It had to do with tenancy.
All right, Alhaji, thank you again for coming. Thank you. We'll take a short break now.
Thank you very much.
Epidemic in some West African countries. The Nigerian government wants you to be aware and watch out against the spread of Ebola in your community. Help keep our country safe. Refer anybody coming into Nigeria from any other West African country to a hospital for proper medical screening. And watch out for severe cases of fever, headaches, diarrhea, chest and abdominal pain, sore throat, cough, red eyes, and bleeding from the eyes, ears, and nose. Protect yourself. Wash your hands regularly with soap and sanitizer. Avoid contact with the blood, urine, feces, or saliva of animals like bats, monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzees, or infected persons. The Ebola virus is deadly. Don't catch it. Don't spread it. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Jig in the water will get school uniforms whiter, and it is the top stain fighter that will get your whites much brighter. Just Chickens! Pot puree and lemon. Just Chickens! Hey, you better go get it! Now available in lemon and pot puree fragrances, the newest and freshest way to chickens.
A new day is almost a clean slate. The plethora of opportunities offered. The chance to choose.
Investing in agriculture is the key.
Set your agenda. Begin your day. Good morning, Nigeria.
Right, join me in welcoming our next guest, and he is Ahmed Abdul Kadri. And Ahmed Abdul Kadri is the former special advisor to the president on manufacturing and private sector. Mr. Abdul Kadri, thank you very much for joining us, and good morning, Nigeria.
Good being with you here this morning.
We understand that one of the factors that led to the eventual collapse of the textile industry in Nigeria was due to the undue opportunity and control, given to some expatriates who dictated the pace of growth in that sector. How do you react to that?
I would rather think the other way around, because the collapse of the textile industry does not only collapse on the Nigerians, it also collapsed on the expatriates. So it's both sides that lost. But the most important thing that we need to look at in the textile industry, as I have heard Aremu said earlier, of course, when Nigeria introduced SAP, way back as in 1986, virtually all the industrial sectors of this country collapsed. Because you want to buy something, you go to the market with 200 naira, by the time you get to the market, it's maybe 210. You go back home trying to get 10 naira, by the time you get back again, the price has gone up. So the industries could not catch up with the cost of the raw material. Because each time they sell all they have, by the time they go back to the bank to order for another set of raw material, the prices change, and it's changed for the worse. So those are some of the things that created so much mayhem in the sector. And of course, the banks need to protect themselves. So in the course of protecting themselves, the industries were made to bear all the brunt. So those are some of the problems that started way back as 1986, and it came all the way to where we are today. But we are looking for a solution. If we are looking for a solution into the textile industry, let's look at 3 countries: China, India, and Bangladesh. But Bangladesh experience is what I want us to look at. Bangladesh is a country of less than 100 million people. Bangladesh is a marshy country, they don't have land. But garment is the means of the survival of not only the Bengals, but including the government of Bangladesh. Anytime they need money and they don't have money in the government, they go to the textile garment industries to borrow money. They go to the garment industries to borrow money and pay back when the government has enough revenue. What does that mean? That means the country is sustaining itself on the garment sector. The country does not have enough land to produce cotton. The little they can produce is what they argument most of the cotton they import. Nigeria, we have all the land to produce the cotton we need. Nigeria, we have all the manpower we need to empower. So when the government is talking about creating 3 million jobs, I see it as a non-starter. Maybe a good intentions, but textile sector alone can give you nothing less than 5 million jobs in 5 years. 5 million jobs in 5 years. And what does that translate? All the government needs to do is to pump in just maybe twice the amount of money they gave for the intervention funds, which they give 100 billion. With 200 more billion, this will go a long way. First, to look at what are going to be the composite textile industries, where you have the ginning, the spinning, and the weaving. And maybe take the first 2-3 years of these new nations to produce whatever they can produce. But at the same time, look at what do we have from China, where we are now crying foul. I don't think there is any time to waste anymore thinking we need to ban it. No. Allow them import, charge duty, charge levy. The levy that you are going to make out of all the imports of this textile material, use it to develop the local textile industry. use it to develop the local textile industry and the garment industry. And in the garment sector alone, the smallest garment sector in Bangladesh employs a minimum of 15,000 people. The largest sectors employ 50,000 people, just one industry. So they have virtually over 60% of the nationals working in the garment industries. What stops us from doing the same? And also looking at the backward integration. When you talk about cotton, we can produce cotton in the northern part of the country and perhaps even in the southwest. We are looking at the short staple fiber and the long staple fiber. Most of the north, what they produce is the short staple fiber. Gombe State, Borno State, Adamawa State, Taraba State are 4 cotton producing states in the northeast. And you move to the northwest. You have Katsina, you have Zamfara, you have up to Kebbi. They are also major cotton producing states where they have massive lands. As of today, the country produces a maximum of 160,000 metric tons, which is nothing. 160,000 metric tons is nothing. But even this 160,000 tons that we produce, we export virtually over 60% of it, because the local industries we have cannot consume it. We export to India, we export to Bangladesh, we even export cotton to China. But we don't even produce enough. So what do we need to do in the cotton sector? We need to really reform the cotton sector. The narcotan has been a problem. Problem in the sense that those who are there have been the sectorial heads for the last 20 years, and they have abused their usefulness. So all the cotton farmers lost hope in them. So reform it.
What are these, please?
Narcotan. Narcotan is the National Cotton Producers Association of Nigeria. So the headship has not been doing well in the last 10 years. They're having one crisis or the other. So that's why today, if they produce cotton, if the price is good, by the next year when they're going to produce another cotton, the price collapses, they don't go to farm cotton again. They go for other products. So you need to reform in such a way that you have consistency in the cotton production, so that all the cotton we are going to produce can be enough to supply all the next composite textile industries we intend to have in the country. And the textile industries we are going to have will now produce enough textile materials for the garment industries to augment most of what they are going to import to start doing their garment industries. So the issue is direct job. This country can have nothing less than 5 million direct jobs in both the textile and the garment industries, whereas the country can have additional 5 to 7 million of indirect jobs from the transportation and other aspects. So I think it is very critical that the garment sector of the textile industry is given a shot to look at clearly.
Very well. Policy is important, and obviously that will flow from the federal government. And as is very well rightly said, one of the last guests we had said, the textile and the garment industry, they were factored in the industrial revolution plan of the administration. But let's begin to break it down. I believe that if we're going to stimulate the entire value chain, the other sectors, the other tiers of government have a huge role to play. Local governments, state governments. What, in your opinion, is missing now in terms of intervention by these other tiers of government?
The most important thing is there has to be a coordination between the Federal Ministry of Agriculture as well as the Federal Ministry of Industry, because the Federal Ministry of Industry is the end user of this product, whereas Federal Ministry of Agriculture is the producer. So if there's a synergy between these two ministries to go down and now work with their counterparts in the states to inform them, look, this is our next plan. We need to produce X amount of cotton in your state. Could you please get all the local government chairmen and the head of the agricultural departments and let us meet together and now portion out how much land do we get in each local government to produce this product and only this product. Based on this, people will now have a sense of belonging to now think, okay, we are ready to produce so much of your need, but we need A, B, C. What are these A, B, C? Normally what they need the seeds, they need the pesticides, and they need the fertilizer. If they can get this, the next arm of government that needs to come in is National Biotechnology Authority. In most things that is happening in the agricultural sector today, they're not carried on board because we always keep complaining of low production per hectare. How do we boost it? National biotech authorities need to do that. If you are now producing, let's say, 4 metric tons per hectare, they can now say, yes, we can do 7 tons, we can do 8 tons, we can even go up to 12 tons. But in most cases, they are not carried on board. And I think it's critical that this institution is always carried on board when we're talking about agriculture in this country.
Okay, let's quickly take this last question
yes,
from you. Earlier on, Kingsley talked about the effect of globalization, and you do know that Nigeria is a member of WTO, and most recent, there's this agreement among West African countries, of course, to have a common, external tariff. What do you think will be the implications of this on efforts to revive our textile industry?
Well, WTO, we need to slow down on working on the globalization because Nigeria produced nothing less than 65 to 70% of the goods consumed in West Africa. We have the greatest industries in West Africa. If we go headlong with what we call globalization, most of our counterparts in the French-speaking countries virtually produce nothing, except a place like Cote d'Ivoire. But even Ghana does a lot much more than Cote d'Ivoire. But they are always importing nations, and they would like to import from their parents rather than from us. Whereas we are producing and we would like to feed our sister countries. If we go on head-on with the way they want to do this globalization, it will slow our progress, and I think we need to look at that once again, because the common external tariff is good for us, but the common external tariff gives us a leverage where we have competitive advantage, we need to be protected. Where we have a competitive advantage, we need to be protected. And it used to be maybe between 10, maybe up to 25%, where we need to add up our duties. But I think it's critical that we enforce it, rather than to think we'll just go with other African countries and what their wishes are. It will not augur well for us.
All right, Elijah Ahmed Abdul Kadri, former special advisor to the President on manufacturing and private sector. Thank you for coming to share your views with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
Very well, Claire. Actually, it was a special advisor during President Obasanjo's administration.
Okay.
Yes,
thank
that's right. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we have the last segment of our program.
Nigeria, we the people decree that the power of evil secrecy shall fail.
All Nigerians should understand that a divided Nigeria can only mean catastrophic consequences for the entire black race.
We all African countries count on you, and you are our beacon of hope.
That when Nigeria sneezes, all of us will catch hold.
All of us who look to Nigeria for lessons and inspiration never cease to thank God for this wonderful gift to Africa.
Nigeria enjoys the respect, the admiration, the friendship, and the hope of an entire continent.
The powerhouse of Africa.
Nigeria.
Unite and build Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
A message from protectors of Nigerian posterity.
Jig in the water will get school uniforms whiter, and it is the top stain fighter that will get your whites much brighter. Just Jiggins! Pot puree and lemon. Just Jiggins! Hey, you better go get it! Now available in lemon and pot puree fragrances, the newest and freshest way to jig it.
All right, thank you for joining us. Let's quickly look at what's trending on the arts and entertainment. We understand it's another launch of a new video with some Nigerian artists, just as Abuja is set for the next Queen Aso Nigeria Beauty Pageant this weekend. And here is Ngozi Chude with all the details.
Hello, did I hear anybody say, thank God it's Friday? Yes, we are here again to give you some groove as it is the season of new videos. This group were discovered on a talent show some years back. The talent they exhibited was for sure the real thing. Eat after eat, they have proven they can weather any storm. Recently, the duo released a new love song after rumors of perhaps a sweet beginning getting sour.
I'm with you, my love, love. With you, everything is well, your love, they make my heart to do yori yori. Nobody.
The sweetness of the sound of their music was not mistaken from Yori Yori. They moved on to the larger picture of collabos with top artists like P Square and Jay Martins. Since then, the group has achieved remarkable commercial success with their uplifting songs that have drawn nothing but love from the wider audience. Nwachukwu Ozioko and Ali Obumneme, aka Bracket, became the rave of the moment. With hit tracks like Adowere, Mwa Mwa, among others, the group became a household name. However, for some time, the duo have been out of the scene. But thankfully, their recent video confirms the sickness never went sour.
You love me, I love you, baby. You love me, my baby.
The supergroup Bracket is back with a very exciting video following their streaks of its songs. Like some believe, it is a well choreographed video with very crisp pictures and beautiful scenery.
You know say you belong to me, and I know say I belong to you. All the love I go give them to you.
The video is a Capital Dream Pictures presentation and definitely something Nigerians would savor. Really, what better way to start your weekend? And talking about that, Queen Aso Nigeria pageant is tomorrow. Yeah, and what are we expecting is next with Cecily Bailey.
After preliminary selection stages, these 21 beauties are contesting for the crown as the 9th Queen of Aso Nigeria. During the familiarization visit to NTA Entertainment, the organizers said the essence of this pageant differs from all others. General Manager NTA Entertainment, in her remark, pledged NTA support for this project.
Whichever way that we are able to support you, we will do. And we hope that there is more that we can do together.
When you lose, you get up to win another day. And when you win, you don't let it get into your head.
For the others, take it easy. It's not a do or die affair.
The 9th edition of the Queen of Aso Beauty Pageant is in search of a lady of beauty and brain who will represent Nigeria's cultural image around the world. And for each of these ladies, they are just one step closer to the crown.
Of course, I know I'm beautiful outwardly and, of course, inwardly. So, yes, I think I will win this crown. I know, rather.
Representing my tribe and my traditional people, I will bring out everything I have to give it to them.
The finals of the contest will hold on Saturday, September 13 at the Sheraton Hotel and Towers by 4 p.m. The winner of the contest will go home with a brand new car and an all-expense-paid trip to South Africa to represent Nigeria at the Miss African Ladies 2014.
That's it for now. We'll see you again next week, of course. But remember, do what you'll be proud of.
Thank you, Ngozi, for that message. Do what you will be proud of. That's the message. And with that, we end this week's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for staying with us. It's been a whole 5 days of very interesting discussions, and today has been particularly enlightening for me, and I'm sure Kingsley as well. And maybe from today, Kingsley, you begin to think more Nigerian in terms of what you wear and, of course, what you patronize. I am Claire Adelabo Abdul-Razak. Have a pleasant weekend.
And I also like to wish you a lovely weekend, and thank you for staying with us all through the week. We'll be with you again on Monday. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Good day and welcome to Insight. The recent shocking allegations made by an Australian negotiator, Dr. Stephen Davis, that some powerful Nigerian politicians are the primary sponsors of Boko Haram continue to generate controversy across the strata. The alleged involvement of the Central Bank of Nigeria, a former governor of Borno State, and a former chief of army staff has continued to be a subject of debate. Though there have been denials by individuals and institutions, but Nigerians are asking questions. This is the topic of our discourse today on Insight. Environmental health is no doubt central to national health delivery system. The recent outbreak of the dreaded Ebola virus disease has perhaps brought the significance of environmental health to the fore again. The Registrar and the Chief Executive Officer of Environmental Health Officers Registration Council of Nigeria is our guest on our special interview segment. Enito KDG will be taking you on a journey through the media world. Enito.
Hello and welcome to Insight. I am Enito KDG. Later on the media review segment, I'll be speaking with a media analyst to discuss how the media has covered issues in the news this week. See you soon.
My name is Femi Adefila. Up next is our discussion segment. Stay tuned. You welcome back. The recent shocking revelations, or should I call it allegations, made by an Australian negotiator that certain powerful Nigerian politicians are the primary sponsors of Boko Haram continue to generate controversy. He went further to point accusing fingers at Governor Alimodu Sheriff, former governor of Borno State, a top banker operating at the top echelon of CBN, and of course, a former chief of army staff. There have been deniers from different quarters, but despite this, it has generated ripples, and that is